It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
If you want to feel more connected to humanity and a little less alone, listen to Beautiful Anonymous. Each week, I take a phone call from one random anonymous human being. There's over 400 episodes in our back catalog. You get to feel connected to all these different people all over the world. Recent episodes include one where a lady survived a murder attempt by her own son. But then the week before that, we just talked about Star Trek. It can be anything. It's unpredictable. It's raw. It's real. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.
A big shout out this week to Mazer, Lucas, and Kayla, who are our newest patrons, and to Jimbo and Spracknell, who both upped their pledges in this past week. This episode of Critical Hit is going out to you. And if you are one of our fine patrons at patreon.com/major spoilers and you missed last week's GM Roundtable, you missed a great discussion about world building. We had a special guest in who shared his experiences with world building. We shared tips and tricks with everyone who hung out in the chat room. We even gave away some prizes for those people who were in the chat room. If you missed it, well, you were missed. We were really hoping that you would have come and joined us, but here's how nice we are. Even though you missed the live show, we archive that show so you can go back and listen to it again and still get all the same awesome information that those people who were there live got to hear. So Mazer, Lucas, and Kayla, go check out the GM Roundtable from last week and become a better builder of worlds for your next role-playing session. And if you're not already a patron, then what are you waiting for? Head over to patreon.com/major spoilers. And for as little as $5 a month, $5 a month is not a whole lot. All that money goes right back into growing everything we do at Major Spoilers. But for as little as $5 a month, you can get access to the entire collection of the GM Roundtable archives, plus exclusive podcasts, RPG podcasts that we have done in the past. You can get them all right now. It's in the archives waiting for you to come and hang out with all the other cool people who are right now patrons. Patreon.com/major spoilers. Thank you, Mazer, Lucas, Kayla, Jimbo, and Spracknell. This week's episode goes out to you. Welcome to Critical Hit, a Major Spoilers podcast. Thank you so much for downloading and checking us out this week. Everybody's here, including, I believe, Matthew is here. Rodrigo is here.
Sorry, I'm eating.
Oh, that's fine. There you go, folks. The one time Rodrigo breaks the rules and he gets caught right here live on the show. D&D Brian, hello.
Hello.
Rob is also here.
Hey.
Sam is here.
Hello.
And of course, our GM Kevin is here once again as we dive back into Drifters, a Starfinder RPG game that you've been running. So much fun. You've been doing such a great job at this, but I have a feeling this is where we're going to slow things down and go to crawl so all of us dummies can figure things out, Kevin.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yourself like that.
Well, so this is going to be a bit of a change of pace from last time.
Go ahead. Sorry, I was eating.
Nice. That was a good one. You guys did a little golf clap over here. So previously you spoke...
Critical Hit.
Damn it. You spoke with I can't even remember their name, Team Electrum, not at all a angry, speedy crew. And at the nightclub Opulence in Absalom Station, and they explained how they saw your future collaborations going. So you have a late night out at the club, and after which you'll now have some more logistics to deal with. The actual upgrading of your starship, the Squeaky Clean. So that is what we'll be diving into tonight. But first, we will start with you guys the day after your night out at the club. And let's do just a quick round around the table of what state your character is in after that night out. Let's start with Amu. When we last left you, you were in the middle of a crowd all shouting that we are all Amu, as I recall.
Right, crisis of identity. No, Amu is probably not much worse for wear, and would be messing around with the samples they collected, while also potentially performing surgery on themselves to install all those upgrades from the market trip.
Cool. That sounds good. So you're getting ready for some selective self-surgery. Hecubino.
Hecubino is okay. He drank well within his limit, so he's not hungover, but he does seem distant. Pretty much the whole rest of the day. He'll answer questions or whatever, but he's kind of somewhat out of it.
Ever meet your heroes?
Yeah, pretty much.
Bob.
Bob has rebooted and is feeling fine. He's ready to proceed with the next day. So he's just basically standing around waiting for everybody to show up.
Okay. Quentin.
Quentin is trimming his plant.
Is that a euphemism, or do you have a plant?
I literally have a plant. What would that be a euphemism for?
If it was a euphemism, what could it apply to?
Yes, remember, 11 years ago when we described our quarters, Quentin has a weird runner plant that he takes care of in his quarters.
Oh,
and
fair enough.
It's a weird leggy plant covered with things, and so he's kind of doing the bonsai technique, except it's not a bonsai, nor is it actually a particularly nice plant. It's just a plant. But it's his plant, and he keeps it alive.
Quentin, your robot of mystery.
Indeed.
Vangie.
She was the kind of tanking the party by drinking everyone's drinks. So she is probably at least a little bit hungover and just moving around sluggishly.
We can take care of that.
But you're a lizard, not a slug.
Uh,
And Skritic.
Well, Skritic mostly avoided the festivities, so he's probably all right. Probably got back to the ship a bit tired and hungry, but would probably have scurried off to his room to rectify that. And so when he reemerges, he's good to go.
All right, cool. Well, the next day, Aurea, by the way, Aurea is spelled Aurea, in case anyone cares, but the root of the word is gold. Aurea, hence why the Team Electrum called him Goldie, or called them Goldie.
Right.
Aurea contacts you the day after via, Infosphere connection, and you guys can be gathered, in the quarters that you guys were staying at, or maybe you've woken up and gathered at the Squeaky Clean where it's docked. Your choice.
Squeaky Clean.
Yeah.
Squeaky clean.
Into the ship.
means we can sleep later.
So since Aurea sends you a group call, it's easy to just take it and deal with it all at once. And like a little holographic projection of the android executive assistant of Eon Souljet pops up. He again is thin, tall. He's got 6 arms, so he's an odd duck. You can see a couple of those arms folded as he faces whatever projector is recording him for you. And they say, Team Lizardbrain, your ship is in need of retrofitting and augmentation, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I've spoken with the marketing executives at Doctor and Scramble. I'm fluent in Jabubnan corporate speak. They're providing the credits for your ship's enhancements, isn't that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Very well. I have made an appointment for you at Redshift Revolution Industries versus. They're located at the Skydock. They will handle all upgrades you require and should be within your budget, according to what Doctor and Scramble is providing. Plus, they are. We've worked with them before. Is that sufficient? Do you require anything else?
I
Nope.
think we're good for now. Yeah.
Excellent. Then I encourage you to make haste.
All right.
If you require any assistance, you have my information. And the holograph fades.
So, what are the odds that they're going to sabotage our ship like they did with the last team?
Approximately 3 to 1.
I don't think we're at that point yet. I think they were being honest. They want us to take a dive for them, so they have no reason to stop us from doing what we're doing up until that time.
Fair enough. And we could always scope out the modifications afterwards, make sure they look legit.
Yeah.
All right. We
And
should
then
talk
just
strategy at some point, but
just something so that you guys know, Aurea does not report to Team Electrum.
Right.
More like the other way around. But that is totally, you're still valid in having that conversation. I just want to make it clear he's not, or they're not a part of Team Electrum.
Right.
'cause, yeah, now that we're in the big leagues, we should probably figure out how we don't die.
Yep. I mean, we then we kind of dodged the bullet there by pitching the heel turn. So I think it bought us a little bit more time.
Wait, what's a heel turn?
It's where we go from being the good guys to being the bad guys.
But we're the good guys.
Correct. But if we perform the heel turn, we will be standing in the role of the villain or heel, a traditional phrase utilized in kayfabe communities dating back to the early 1800s.
But
Yeah, it's
why
just
would we
like
be the bad
acting.
guys? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, not everything that we do in front of the cameras is for reals anyway.
Mm-hmm. For the
Right.
purposes of a narrative, we will be taking on the role of the antagonist.
Yeah, you know, my eyes don't naturally have this definition. I put on eyeliner every day,
We figured that was just a human ritual.
and it is.
Yeah, it's just, the ritual is to look awesome on camera.
Yeah.
You feeling okay?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I just didn't you know, I didn't have a lot of expectations going in when we got into the big leagues, but I didn't expect to kind of second thing ever. You guys need to throw a raise.
Yeah, I mean, I got more of that when I was in the arena, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, we could always make the. Well, we gotta get to that phase first.
Yeah.
So, cheer up!
All right. And like Hegubina will actually like slap his head a couple times. It's like, all right, let's go get some parts.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, Verces is not particularly far away. It's in the Pack World systems. It's the fourth planet from the sun, one planet further away than Akaton. So you guys could hop on the Squeaky Clean and, just use your thrusters and get there in a little bit.
Okay.
You have some time amongst yourselves, but if you don't care, then we'll just skip ahead to arriving in Verces.
I'll take Amu up on his weird hangover cure.
It's mostly just going to be an adrenaline shot and then put you under a lizard lamp.
Actually, that sounds lovely.
That's good. Yes.
There's no weird about it. It's you as lizard, you had alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Give her a
Those
giant
Those things would make you
rock.
better. Exactly. Heat rock,
Yeah.
electrolytes.
Yeah, you don't want to give water to a Vesk who's hungover. That has the opposite effect.
That'll make her more drunk.
It'll make her more pukey.
The puke is gross. It's full of bones. Just comes out as a big pellet.
You part
So wait,
owl now?
A Vesk is an owl?
I mean, owls are part. I don't know.
Part Vesk? Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like
Owls
that.
are Vesk. Yeah, you didn't know that.
Yeah, they're aliens, man.
It's that. It's like that thing in Futurama where they're like celebrating that they conquered this like giant spider planet. It's like actually these spiders are more closely related to Earth's elephants than to spiders.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Then I will bask.
And you have the opportunity to do some self-surgery, Amu. Are there any
Boy.
rolls required?
No, didn't look like it.
All right. Does anyone notice any changes?
There is a slight issue on one of them. I think I accidentally took 2 throat things. One of them is the one that lets me talk to animals. One of them is the dragon breath.
While technically you are, an amorphous collective, for the purposes of game balance, I don't think we should have more than one item per item slot.
Yeah, dragon gland and wild wise are both throat pieces.
Do you have 2 throats? I mean, you're not humanoid.
Well, that's what Kevin's saying. Is that
I
unfortunately
don't
for game balance
think-
reasons?
The slot
has
is what
extras.
matters.
In order to, he basically artificially creates a, vocal cord type thing, and I'll say. So wait a minute. One of them is the dragon gland, which is a breath weapon attack,
Yep.
and the other lets you talk with animals.
Wildwise. The soft purple fungus called Wildwise attaches itself to your vocal cords and extends fine filaments into portions of your brain. It allows you to communicate in the general sense with animals and with magical beasts with an intelligence score of 1 or 2. You can attempt to... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Do it. I take it all back.
Woo! I was hoping that one would be useless enough to get the pass.
Very clever,
Useless
Rob.
and/or allows Kevin to have like weird plot thrown at you.
Does it involve
Already
Amu being able to
close game.
collect more pets?
Yeah.
Could
Could have helped
involve
me
Amu being able to try.
evade those holographic fish, maybe.
Maybe.
Then again, maybe the computer wouldn't have given them holographic brains. Who knows? Maybe next time. So, you guys travel to Verces, the fourth planet from the sun. It is tidally locked, meaning that it doesn't revolve on its axis independent of its rotation from the sun. So, what that means is one side of the planet is constantly in daylight, while the other side is always in darkness. Most of the population lives in what's called the Ring of Nations, a circle around the globe in the Terminator zone between these two halves, where it's kind of a twilight. Skydock is an enormous space elevator and space station used for bringing supplies from the surface to orbit back before anti-grav and launch thrusters were as commonplace as they are. It's still a major center of travel, trade, and entertainment. It's also it's the location of some of the Packworld's most prominent shipyards, including Redshift Revolution, which is your destination.
Just so much better than their competitors, Blue Ship Absolution.
Let's see here. Definitely Bob, and quite possibly Quentin, but certainly Bob, would know that Redshift Revolution is considered like they're stylish racers. They typically do work on fighters, so smaller craft than this for sure, and like high performance civilian ships, like I don't know, they're the sort of thing a billionaire has as a space yacht. Not like one of the giant yachts, but like a racing yacht. So they used to be, like a top tier racing hardware company. But they've recently been losing out to a far more modernized and cutthroat organization called Terminator Industries. And that has in turn led to Redshift Revolution having a bunch of corporate upsets on their board. Quentin would specifically know about the corporate intrigue, whereas Bob, being the pilot, would know more of like their background in racing. Recently, they've come up with some new lines of racing fighters that are way more competitive and are less traditional and hidebound than their reputation. So that is, again, and Quentin, this is due to like an all new CEO board. Everything. So they're definitely looking to make a name for themselves. They have not so far broken into drifters, but obviously the powers that be think that this would be a good fit.
Well, these guys will certainly equip our ride and make it fairly extreme and flashy, I hope. Fast.
Yeah, this place looks classy.
Yeah, as you dock at the Skydock. So Skydock is it's not actually even on the planet; it's in orbit. And again, because it's tidally locked, it doesn't even rotate around the planet. It just stays in the same place, kind of. Mm-hmm. It's an enormous space station. Just it's about the size of Absalom Station, but as a adjunct to a planet.
Yeah, nice. I wonder if this is one of those places with like a waiting room where they give you like a free cookie.
Oh yeah, those places are great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you dock at Redshift Revolutions and you're given admittance, you can tell that there's kind of a jumble of styles here. You're led through their trophy room, which has it's got like brass fittings and everything's like velvet, and there's strange wood that you've never seen before in your life as the shelves, and nothing's metal, and just like, wow, that's kind of old school. but they've won a lot of trophies, just not recently. And you get through. They actually give you a glass of multicolored bubbly. You're not sure what exactly it is, but it changes color because that also is in keeping with their logo. The red shift, they've got like kind of a rainbow fighter stylized icon.
Ooh.
Ooh, classy.
That means it's moving away from us.
Hey, Quentin, snap a picture and with cheers to Hecubino with my bubbly.
Selfie.
Cheers.
It goes out on the stream with things underneath it, a nice frame and some weird sort of stuff on the side. And it's like,
Some
hey,
animations.
upgrade time. Little animated Vengi emoji.
Nice.
Look, drinking.
Yeah, that's only available to our subscribers.
That's right.
Yeah, there's all sorts of emojis that are only available to your backers, like a Hecubino with his hands on his hips, arms akimbo. Guys,
Yep. You can get a special asterisk that's actually just Amu because he's shaped like an. Okay, fine.
So after your initial greeting, you're brought into the actual bay where they've pulled around the Squeaky Clean because you have to dock and everything like that. And here everything has been. There's no creature comforts. There's none of that kind of old school vibe. It's you see that the team they've assembled is eclectic. It's got people from all around the galaxy and every background. So garage mechanics and ex-cons, along with contemplative genius engineers from Akaton, all contributing to this collective effort of top of the line engineering. You guys have the contact information of the three engineers who will be working as part of your crew. Their names are Enzo, Shelby, and Miles.
I understood that reference.
I didn't. I'm laughing about something entirely different. I certainly didn't get that.
So they are. By the way, now that you're actually seeing people, these are Verthani, or like Versite people. So they're their own species. They are 8 feet tall, which is pretty darn tall. They're tend to have like long limbs and be a bit thinner and like have delicate features. Their eyes are just all black orbs, and they actually kind of like protrude a little bit out of the eye socket. So you can just see their giant black eyes. And the pigment of their skin changes color. Two of these ones seem to be in control of the change of their colors, while one is moving through a bright set of patterns. At the very least, Amu, you know that means the bright one is probably younger than the ones that have more control. And they are all cybered up to some extent. Without digging in too much into Verthani society, suffice it to say that cybernetics are way more common here than they are on most planets.
Neat.
They will come up and introduce themselves. greetings. We're happy to have your business. I'm Enzo. This is Shelby and Miles, and we'll be honored to be your pit crew. So I don't know if any of you have ever served in a pit crew.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's how we got our start on Drifters.
Oh, excellent. Well, yes. So we're professionals. We're mechanics. We're scientists of sorts. More practical scientists, I suppose you'd say. We're not afraid of getting our hands dirty, elbows deep in grease and gears and such. But we'll be assisting you if ever your ship requires repairs or mid-race, anything like that. I'm given to understand that even in drifters, they do allow to have these pit crews assist you at certain times. So
Yeah, it depends on the race, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and just to be clear, you guys aren't looking to break into Drifters as racers yourselves, right?
oh goodness, no, that seems suicidal.
Cool,
Okay,
great.
all
We'll
right,
get
good,
along
good.
perfectly.
I'll push Bob forward.
Hello. Big fan of
Bob's
your
our
work.
pilot and mechanic, so he's going to be our point person for this.
Excellent. So, do you already have your plans for what the squeaky clean will be after our upgrades?
We've talked about it a little bit. I don't know if we've nailed down all the details, but we need to be fast and we need to be maneuverable and we need to be able to beat the competition. So I know that's kind of general, but my initial thing,
need armor, yes,
yes, armor and weapons, yes.
Yeah. We'd like to not be blown up, but to also blow things up.
And do you need sensors to be able to detect other ships and the terrain around you?
Yes.
Yeah. That sounds
and
useful.
like fast thrusters.
Fast thrusters, yes. Do you need electronic countermeasures in case you're hacked or
Oh yeah,
missiles are-
definitely.
All right. So you need a fast, maneuverable, armed, defensively engineered, thruster-empowered. Yes, you need everything, is what you're telling me.
Yes. And it needs to look cool.
Oh, well, we can help you with that.
Preferably with a lizard theme.
Very well.
What about the brain?
Also,
But
brain?
first, let me
A
show
smart
you
lizard.
this
Come with brains,
short
they're fine.
video about what we can do here at Redshift Revolutions. And then we're going to hop from that to out of character. And you can always ask these guys in character questions if you want, but this is a good kind of breaking point of me describing how starship combat works, like the functions of a starship, and therefore, because you guys are going to be able to build the new squeaky clean, but I want you to know what you're paying for.
Right.
So, ahead of this game, I created a little document that you guys should all have, the Starship Basics thing, that just kind of breaks down the terms that are thrown around for starships. Then there's a little building a starship bit, and we'll also talk about roles in starship combat. So first of all, we already have the Squeaky Clean, which is a tier 3 starship, 95 build points, and it's got a bunch of details already listed. So the good news is we're only paying to upgrade that. And for the purposes of starship upgrades, basically everything is fully refundable. So you only pay for the difference in costs.
Nice.
So like, let's say you trade out your power core, you only pay however much your new power core costs more than your previous power core.
Oh, good.
Basically, imagine you can sell back everything you currently have at full price. So that kind of means you get to start from scratch. So the main concepts you have to understand for building, because building a starship is almost like a little mini game in and of itself. And I would like you guys to do it, and I can help, I can answer questions, all of that, but I definitely want you guys to feel like you control your own destiny and have built the Squeaky Clean here together. So the two things that you have to spend are build points. That's like the number one thing. That's where we start. And that's abstractly, tens of thousands of credits. They intentionally don't let you convert build points to credits or vice versa.
Sure.
But you have a total of 180 build points. Now, the existing Squeaky Clean costs 95, so that would mean you have 85 additional if you view it as upgrading. The other thing that you kind of have to keep track of and spend as you go is what's called it's power, basically. They use a term called PCU, or Power Core Unit. It's provided by the ship's power core, which is a relatively expensive part of the ship that is really important. So like on the existing Squeaky Clean, you have what's called a Pulse Red power core that costs 17 build points to put on your ship, which is, more like, that's like 20% of the total build points you had. And that provided 175 PCU that you then spend on other things. So like if you look at your existing Squeaky Clean, the thrusters you guys have cost 70 PCU. So you can't spend more power than your power core provides. Obviously, there's not enough power to go around. So you kind of have to keep track of those two things as you go.
So we buy things with build points, and then we got to check against the amount of power that we have.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. Yep.
Getting a real XCOM feel out of this system.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say a couple of things to keep in mind. We are a medium-sized ship, and we've only got 4 expansion bays in a medium-sized ship. If we go to a larger frame, meaning a larger ship size, our maneuverability goes down, our bays increase, but I'm going to guess more than likely we're going to have either a second power core or a larger power core.
Yeah. Right. Destroyer only has 4 expansion bays too, so we'd probably want to
that. But if you look at some of the ones that even have
freighter, for instance.
Yeah. There's another one that I was looking at that's a large, the heavy freighter, and there's one that's a cruiser. No, let's see.
The cruiser is huge.
Yeah. And so I don't honestly I don't know what you guys think, but I don't know if we need to upgrade the size of our ship. But that's up to you guys.
I kind of like sticking with the Explorer. It seems nice and balanced.
Certainly nothing wrong with it. It does limit you, as Stephen was saying, to just those 4 expansion bays, which is a little
used, are they not?
What's that?
Yeah.
Half of which are already used.
Right, 2 of which have already been used. Now, there is kind of a trick around that. If you really want, you can have what's called an external expansion bay, which are kind of like tacked onto the ship. It's like extra storage space on the ship. So let's see, it does affect the ship's maneuverability to have these.
It's like putting a camper on the back of your truck.
Right.
Or probably more like a Thule on top of your car.
So that is an option if you want, and you can see that it costs, basically 3 additional build points just to have that as an option, without adjusting the frame, and then you still have to pay for whatever you put in that expansion bay as well. And then when you do that, it increases the turn distance of the ship by 1 for every 3 expansion bays it has, rounded up. So if you even do this at even one time, you will increase the turn distance, which I actually want to talk about. So I'm going to briefly, some of these things are really, really obvious, but I do want to go through what the statistics of a starship are and how they're calculated so that you guys know what trade-offs are what. So in both the Starship Basics thing and in Roll20, I have like a little breakdown of each of these, but I'm just going to go through them for the listeners as well and kind of get into a little bit more detail. So real quick, AC, that's very straightforward. It's armor class. But just like how in Starfinder there's 2 armor classes, there's kinetic armor class and energy armor class. In Starship, there's really 2 armor classes as well. There's just your regular AC, which is used against weapons that immediately fire. Like anything that you just like, you imagine a sight and you pull the trigger. So a laser beam or a flak cannon or whatever, those things target armor class. Then there's a separate category of weapon that they have their own targeting system. And so think of like a missile that locks on and tries to follow you after doing an unnecessary number of turns around in anime space. That missile it would try to hit your TL or target lock. So those are different armor classes, basically, different defenses that are upgraded by different parts of your ship. So a ship's armor adds its value to your armor class. That's like hull plating, basically. And every armor will have like some that'll be called like Mark 3 or Mark 4. Well, that 3 or 4, that's just the number it's adding to your armor class. So it's very straightforward. Then there's things called defensive countermeasures, which are like electronic jamming signal stuff. And similarly, they all have a mark number, and that adds to your target lock. So it makes it harder for missiles and stuff to lock on. The one extra thing that defensive countermeasures do is they make your ship harder to scan, which is something that sensors do. So it makes it a little bit harder for people to learn more about you. But there are also more weapons that target AC than target lock. So HP is hull points. These are pretty much identical to hit points. There's one really important kind of difference that we'll get to when we get to a critical threshold. Damage threshold. The Squeaky Clean doesn't have this, so this is for larger ships. So your damage threshold is 0, but theoretically a larger ship would have this and could maybe not take damage in certain cases. We don't need to worry about it. Then there's critical threshold. So a critical threshold is it's defined as basically 20% of your ship's hull points. So let's say you had the current Squeaky Clean has 55 hull points. So when it takes 11 damage, it will have crossed 1 critical threshold. And it doesn't matter whether it takes it all at once or if it takes it over several hits. As soon as you cross that number, so when you go from 45 to 44, no matter how it got there, the ship suffers a critical damage effect. And that is, I roll on a table and something bad happens, in short. One of the systems starts malfunctioning. So, you might have life support start to go down, or the power core starts to be on the fritz, or weapons get knocked out. Each of these areas, typically it's not going to go from fine to completely wrecked all in one go. It needs to kind of progress. So it goes, completely fine, then like glitching, malfunctioning, and then wrecked. And even if it's wrecked, it doesn't mean you all die instantly. Obviously, life support being wrecked is a little problematic, but it just means that you've got a major problem. They also provide penalties to their kind of relevant sphere of influence. So if your engines are malfunctioning, that's going to make piloting harder. If your weapons are glitching, you're going to be less accurate with your shots. The one exception is the power core. The power core basically penalizes everything. You really need that to be working all the time. You take a critical damage effect whenever you cross one of these critical thresholds. So, imagine going from 55 to 44, and then from 33, and then to 22. Each time I'd roll on the table. Furthermore, you can take a regular critical hit in Starship combat whenever a natural 20 is rolled against you. Unlike in normal combat, it doesn't deal double damage. It just applies one of these critical damage effects. With me so far?
Yep.
Yep.
Cool.
I think so, yeah.
The last kind of defensive thing, like that's about armor or target lock or whatever, is shields. So you separately have shields that are radiated all around your ship. This is where, if you could, go to roll 20, and I think you'll see it's a little bit more obvious there. Because this gets to a couple of the key differences in Starship combat versus regular combat. Starship combat is, one, done on hexes, so we get to do the fun hex grid maneuver. And then the other really important thing in Starship combat that is not true in general is that facing matters.
Mhm.
So what direction your ship is looking determines a number of things. It determines what weapons can fire on it. It determines, or what weapons you can fire, basically. It determines how your shields are oriented. And it determines where you can move based off of your turn radius or maneuverability. So if you look on Roll20, you'll see I've got the little starship and then like kind of a reverse diamond, I don't know, like lines shooting out from it on the hex lines going out in 4 different directions. So it splits it up into these 4 arcs. There's the left and right, or port and starboard arcs, and then there's the 4 in front of you and the aft behind you. Shields are an extra ablative bunch of hit points. They're kind of like stamina points. You know how when you lose stamina points in Starfinder, that's kind of fine. Like you haven't been hurt yet, really, and you can recover them out of combat trivially. But you only have so many before you start taking real damage.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, shields are the same thing, except they have to be allocated around the ship in your 4 arcs. So, for instance, right now, the Squeaky Clean has light shields 50, meaning you have 50 points of shields to spread around those 4 arcs. So you can see in my example, I put 15 on both the port and starboard, and 10 to the fore and 10 to the aft. I'm not saying that's a good allocation, it's just what I did randomly for this example. When you're initially allocating them, you have to put at least 10% of your shields in each arc. So like you couldn't put fewer than 5 in any given arc when you're when you've got them balanced at the beginning. Then there are actions that you can take to rebalance the shields, either say pulling from one specific arc to fix another, or basically rebalancing them all together. So let's say, let's just say that you got hit on the 4 and the starboard for 15 points each. So what the shields will do, if you get hit on the starboard side for 15 points, the shields will absorb all of that. You will take no hull damage, but you no longer have shields there. Your shields would be at 0. Because you have only 10 points on the 4 arc, if you got hit for 15 coming from the front, you would subtract 10 from that, the current value of the shields, and then you would take 5 points of hull damage. And now you would have no shields on the 4 arc either. So if subsequent hits come in, your shields aren't going to do on those 2 arcs. Your shields aren't going to do anything. It'll just go straight to your hull.
But
however,
can we divert power to the forward shields?
Exactly. So you can either take specifically from one arc, like let's say the port arc, and rebalance it just from one to another, or you can take all of the points remaining and balance them equally. So, like, let's say in that example that I just gave, where we lost basically half our shields, we lost the 10 to the front and the 15 to the starboard. You could take this rebalance action where you now have 25 points and you have to put them equally around all 4 arcs.
Yeah, but you're not going to be able to take 25 divided by 4 and have that be distributed equally.
What you do is you put 6 in each, and then the forward one gets the remainder.
Okay. Is there a way to put it all to one shield, to one arc?
So you can never take more. So let's say in that same example where the 4 is gone and the starboard's gone, you can take from one particular arc. So let's say the port arc, because the port still has 15 in this example. You can take from that one to fuel another, but you can't make it more than the port arc has. So you could take up to 7 points from the port and put it somewhere else, but you can't take that 8th point because that would make the new arc more than the one you're taking from.
But let me ask this. Could I take port, aft, and starboard and divert that all to the 4 arc and crank that up to 40, or crank that up to 50 for a total?
So theoretically, kind of. You can't reduce. You could make the 4 have. Let's see here, 5, 10, 15. You could get the 4 up to 40. You can't reduce the port, starboard, or aft below 5 voluntarily because that's the 10% limit.
Sure. Okay. That answers my question.
Or I guess not 40, 35. Yeah. Because 35 and then there'd be 5, 10, 15 left. So that's the most you can do.
Okay.
Okay. So those arcs are also important for weapons. Currently the Squeaky Clean has a port arc weapon, a starboard arc weapon, which are both flak throwers, a forward mount weapon, which is a missile launcher, which, by the way, is one of those things that targets target lock, and then a turret. So, in general, which is a coil gun for the Squeaky Clean. In general, weapons can only fire on ships within their arc. So those flak throwers can only fire respectively on ships to the port or starboard, and similarly, the missile launcher only in the front. Turret is the exception. A turret mount ignores arc; it can fire in any direction.
Seems pretty good.
Yep.
Cool. You're with me so far?
Yep.
Mostly, yeah.
Okay. So, one weird thing with hexes, though, is you'll note you go, well, wait a minute. If you draw a line, you can't draw a line along a hex and have it not cross through things, right? Like there is no perfectly straight line that goes along hexes without crossing through hexes. So that is why if you look on Roll20, you'll see that some lines go completely right down the middle of a hex. And for this example, I've drawn in green on those. So let's say you have a ship that is in one of those hexes. So I just put this little ship down to kind of between aft and starboard on one of those green hexes. You get to determine, as the attacker, whether they count as being in your aft arc or your starboard arc. They're not in both. You just pick.
Okay.
So you'd probably choose starboard arc in this example because you guys don't currently. I mean, I guess you have the coil gun that can fire in any way, but this would let you fire up with the flak if you wanted to.
Can we assuming that it stays right there, can we reassign it next turn?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
So, I had another question.
Sure, shoot.
So looking at the hexes, can a starship face a corner of a hex, or does it only face the sides?
It only faces sides.
Okay.
And that gets to the next thing, which is speed and maneuverability, like how you actually move. So thrusters determine your speed, and typically, like slower thrusters have higher maneuverability because you're not going as fast. And then also, like the frame of your ship will also affect maneuverability. So larger ships tend to be less maneuverable. But they can sometimes be faster because they can have bigger and bigger thrusters. So thrusters is just simply the speed in hexes that you move with a simple move. There are more complicated things than that, but we don't really need to worry about it right now. In general, your speed is determined by your thrusters, and it's just the number. So if you look at the Squeaky Clean, it's got M10 thrusters, and something I love about Starfinder design is, what's its speed? Speed is 10 because it says right there M10. Just
Love
like
that. No division.
Yep, nope.
And just for thinking purposes, at our frame size of medium, we can only go up one more thruster size in this frame class,
right?
Which would be M12.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that might start to impose a maneuverability.
It does. It does put a piloting modifier of -1 on it.
Also, one thing that I don't think you mentioned that might be possibly worth considering is ablative armor, which is just like metal we seem to have attached to our ship that gets blown away and provides temps.
Sure. Totally legit. Yep, that's another thing. Because there are also there's stuff that's been added in the Starship Operations Manual and the Armory and stuff like that. So I'm kind of just providing all the basics. But yeah, if you found more detailed stuff, absolutely, that's a totally valid thing you guys could spend points on. So real quick, maneuverability. So maneuverability is determined by there's a number. So like theoretically things say like good or perfect or whatever. You can ignore all of that. That doesn't, the words aren't as helpful to me as just the number. The number that you care about is the number after the word turn. So it'll say turn 1 or turn 2. And that's your real maneuverability. It is how many hexes forward do you have to move before you're allowed to change the facing of your ship one face on a hex. So this will be easy by me demonstrating in Roll20. So you see the little ship in the center? Because its maneuverability is turn 1, if I move it one space forward, I'm also allowed to move it one face on a hex. If I wanted to move it another so now you can see it's kind of facing off to the port side, and I could move it one space forward here, and if I wanted to, I could even move it, as part of the turn, one directly that way, and then I could move one, whoops, not that green thing, but the actual ship, one this way, and if I wanted to, I could turn it back around. But you'll see, I basically spent 3 spaces of movement just to turn around, and I'm actually still further forward and off in one direction. It's not perfect maneuverability like people, when you're on a regular grid in D&D, you have perfect maneuverability. You can move in any direction you want. That is not true for starships.
There is a thing called turn in place, though, Kevin, right?
There are maneuvers that you can do as a pilot. There's there's ways to basically lower your maneuverability, and lower is good because it means like you can turn faster. There's turn in place. There's like a flip and burn maneuver where you can you fly forward and then kind of arc over top of yourself and start flying in the other direction. You're absolutely right. There's a ton of different maneuvers that I encourage you guys to look up, especially and here's a general rule. I strongly encourage you guys not to try to learn everything, but to learn what you care about and think you will do in combat. So if you think you're going to repair the engine, you probably want to know like about the power core and how repairing stuff works, and you might want to look up the engineer role, stuff like that. If you, Bob, are going to be making a bunch of piloting checks, you really need to care about what special piloting maneuvers there are. You also need to care about things like maneuverability and thrusters. But I don't expect everybody to be an expert on this. This is a whole separate system of game, so I don't expect expertise right off the bat.
I'm looking at the armor chart, and a lot of them say +1 turn distance. What does that mean?
That means that that turn number I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's increasing it, and increasing it is bad.
Gotcha.
It means instead of moving let's say the Squeaky Clean's current turn distance is 1. If it was 2, I'm going to go to, so this is 1. 1 is I can move 1, and I can change my facing 1 step when I do that. If it was 2, I would have to do this, Sam. 1, 2, before I could move it 1 step.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare, and I will highly recommend that we do whatever we can do to avoid that.
Yes.
So it's going to be fun. I do think I'm going to use Roll20 for, I do have hex-based maps, actually, but I think that Roll20 is going to be easier for you guys to interact with and see everything crystal clearly, as opposed to interacting through my webcam and stuff when we get to this.
Yeah, message me if you need, or if you're trying to figure something out, because I've spent a lot of time in Roll20. So if you're trying to do something and it's not quite doing it for you, I'll try and help you out.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I found that Roll20 can do a lot of different things, but it isn't always super obvious how to do it.
It is not
it's like any tool. It just has its own language. It's like if you sit down for the first time ever on Photoshop, you kind of have no idea what's happening. It's just it's just developed its own kind of little language on how things work.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So, there's 2 other things that I want to talk about before we get into roles a little. So the last 2 things that are part of the ship are sensors and computers. So sensors are, the things that the ship has to scan the outside world, and they basically do 2 things. They passively detect stuff, and you can act. So that's just within 2 range bands of the sensors, which are determined by how good your sensors are. So you guys have, for instance, medium range sensors currently on the Squeaky Clean. Well, medium range is 10 hexes. And so what that means is within 2 range bands, so within 20 hexes, you guys notice stuff that's out there. You kind of think of it as perception, but for starships. And it even specifically allows characters to make perception checks, but augmented with these sensors. Anyway, so that's what they passively do. You can also actively use them to scan your environment, which I know I, for one, will always have. I can make this promise easily. No environment that you guys are in a race will be without stuff to learn or interact with. I promise. That's just if I haven't done that, I'm making a very boring race, and I'm not going to do that. So sensors are a good way to gather information about the environment around you. You can also use them to scan your opponents, or anyone, but for the purposes of races, let's consider them opponents. And that can gain you information about their ship. Information, as simple as how many life signs are on the ship, but perhaps more relevantly, their current shields and the allocation of those shields, their current armor and hull points, what weapons they have, anything you want to know. Sensors are a way of learning them. So they're your interaction with the outside.
That includes current, right? If we want to be where are they at?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And things, so for instance, Rob, you might be interested possibly in some of the actions under Science Officer, which several of those interact with the sensors, because there's like computers checks, or sometimes I might make them different checks if I deem it appropriate. Like if it's about a natural space phenomenon, I might make it a physical science check as opposed to that. Or if it's life related, I may make it life science. But basically, the sensors would be oftentimes involved in making those checks. And then lastly, there's the computers. So Grace is obviously kind of an NPC character of the game who is not going away, but this represents instead like all of the processors that speed up what Grace is capable of. So in short, what computers do is provide bonuses to your guys' checks. So they provide a number, which is listed, again, with that Mark number. So a Mark II computer will provide a +2 bonus. A Tetra node can grant it up to 4 different checks in a given round.
Nice.
So like an M2 Tetra node grants +2 to up to 4 different checks. And there's a lot of different options for computers. I tend to think, for me, that like granting more bonuses to more checks is better than like a bigger bonus to one check, but that's just me.
Fair.
So while we're there, I guess something that might also be important is how many actions can an individual crew member take while on while crewing some aspect of the ship.
Perfect. Yeah, that actually goes very nicely right into the bottom category on this sheet, which is kind of roles, and going with that starship actions. So by the book, everyone adopts a role in starship combat, and it can change from round to round. It doesn't have to stay the same every round, but I am largely discarding that concept. I'm not going to say like, oh, I'm the engineer, oh, I'm the captain, oh, I'm the pilot. I'm instead going to view it more as you can't do the same thing someone else has already done. So like the ship can only go so far in a round. So if the pilot takes their action to turn the ship around and fly in a different direction, no one else can do that. It's already been done. Similarly, if like the engineer fixes the shields, which is something they can do, no one else will be able to do that again this action. So the short answer to your question, Rodrigo, is you get one action, but it can get a little bit more complicated. For instance, the gunner has like the under gunner, there's a list of actions that are like firing guns. And much like a regular Starfinder PC can either just take a regular shot or make 2 attacks, each with a -4 penalty, well, you can make 2 Starship attacks, each with different weapons, with a -4 penalty as well. So that's considered like, I can't remember what the name of it is. Like, it's not full attack, it's fire away or something like that. Fire at will. But fire at will is basically just the full attack action, but for starships.
Okay.
So in short, you get one action, and there's all of these lists of actions that you guys can look through and see which ones interest you the most. But I also want to be clear to both you and the audience, I do not view this list as a list of all of the possible actions. I really, like we did in the first race, I really encourage creativity. And if you want to come up with something, like hyping up the fans isn't listed in any of these actions because that isn't part of what the core game expects you to be doing.
Right.
But that's a totally valid drifters action. Or, in a given race, if there's an asteroid coming at you and you guys have some clever idea of how to slingshot around it, that might not be listed in any of these lists as a valid action, but you can still do it. So, yeah. Long way of answering your question, Rodrigo. You get one action.
Okay. Another clarification. So you're kind of pushing roles sort of to the background. So let's say that Bob makes an action to move the ship like however many squares, can somebody else then try to perform like a turn in place maneuver?
So no, I'm basically going to count that all against it. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Gotcha. So
Would
same thing
Kensington
with like
Starship
using the
rules?
same thing with like using the sensors. Like you can't have two people doing sensors maneuvers or actions in one round.
Probably not. In short, like if it took, imagine like somebody's at a given station,
Right.
like probably I'm not going to allow the same thing to be used twice.
Gotcha.
In a given action or in a given round.
Yeah, makes sense.
So this also gets me into the weirdest part of Starship combat, which is the structure of a round is fundamentally different. Yeah. So a round has 3 phases, and I'll add this to the Starship Basics doc. I did not put this there, but I'll add it. A round in normal D&D or Starfinder or Pathfinder, whatever combat is just, you roll initiative, your action comes up, you do whatever, pass. Not so in Starship combat because they wanted to make things more complicated, but for a reason. I understand why. At first, I was really upset with it, and I thought, man, this is needlessly complicated. And then I thought, okay, it kind of does some cool things. So they divide a given round into 3 phases. There's the engineering phase, where anything you do that's like repairing the ship or sometimes like boosting the thrusters,
using computers to give bonuses to things.
Exactly. All of that stuff. Like exactly, Rodrigo. That's a lot of it. These actions are boosts to other people's later actions, and what they say is in Starship Combat, all of that happens at the beginning. So in engineering phase, like a lot of the captain's actions or the engineer's actions, those happen, and they basically all happen simultaneously. Because the order of them doesn't matter. You're not interacting with another ship. So all of those things just happen. You declare whatever you want to do, and you do it. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is called the helm phase. You can kind of think of it as the piloting phase. Technically, the science officer moves here too, but they basically act at the beginning of the helm phase. And again, I know I'm not using the roles technically, but it's kind of useful for using the list of actions, like when different actions resolve.
Sure.
So if you're scanning things, stuff like that, all this happens now. So unlike in normal combat where you roll initiative once and then you just go in a cycle and that's it, in Starship Combat you roll initiative every round. An initiative is determined by a piloting check. Then, and this is weird, but you'll understand when we get to the end. Go in reverse order. The person with the slowest initiative declares their action first, and the reason why is the person who's the fastest basically has the most information. Like they know where everyone is going to be before they move their ship. So, let's say you have 3 different ships. You got a ship acting at 19, a ship at 12, and a ship at 5. The 5 their pilot has to pick, how they're going to move and do it before the other 2 do. And what that means is, like, let's say so that the 5 goes first, then the 12, then the 19. If you didn't have this rule, it would mean that the person who's slowest could always just pick to go in a random other direction and like kind of be able to get off the map very easily.
Sure.
And you can't do that with this rule. Like it's much, much harder. The person who acts first has by far the most information. They can choose to either try to follow you or try to get away. So that's one thing. And then also because you're re-rolling initiative every round, it's not like that's set in stone. It's a little bit more dynamic. It's going to move around. So that's the helm phase. And then lastly, we get to the gunnery phase, which is like the attack phase, basically. And that is, again, a little awkwardly separated into 2 steps, but you'll understand why. The first step is you attack. So this is after movement, right? So you've all moved the ship wherever it is, and then ships are basically locked in for the gunnery phase. It's like, okay, wherever we moved, that's where we are. Then you can look at each other and go, oh, look, you're in my port arc. That means I'm going to fire my flak thrower at you. Well, everybody gets to determine, what actions they're going to take, but the attacks, you basically write them. You basically resolve them. Not, I want to say resolve. You make your attacks again in reverse initiative order, but you don't apply the damage yet. Then you get to step 2, which is resolving the attacks and like dealing damage. And the easy way to think of this is imagine 2 ships both fire missiles at each other. Well, the slower ship fired its missile after the first ship, but the missile's still going to hit. So even if you're blown out of the sky, the ship that you were hitting could still deal damage to you. It's almost like simultaneous resolution of those attacks. Did that make sense?
Yeah, just to clarify, it's basically everybody takes those prep actions, then everybody takes, it's like prep action. If you have 3 ships in combat, it's like ship 1 preps, ship 2 preps, ship 3 preps, then ship 1 pilot, ship 2 pilot, ship 3 pilot, kind of like that.
Yes, although in practice, the prep actions can all be done at the same time because none of them interact with each other.
Sure.
But yes, otherwise you're right. And keep in mind that regardless of, each PC, or, for that matter, if I was keeping track of NPCs, can only act once. You only get to pick one of those phases. So you don't get to act both in the prep phase and the pilot phase and the gunnery phase. You get to pick what thing you're doing. So if you're attacking, you're going to be going in the gunnery phase.
Okay.
For instance.
There, I'm going to guess that there is no system for like bailing out of an action if it just becomes kind of a moot action. Like if somebody who is going faster moves out of your range of your weapons or something, you still have to shoot in that direction because you said you were gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably allow you to do something else, but I wouldn't be super friendly with it because you knew that was a possibility going in, and
gotcha. Yeah.
I would like you, like if you wanted to, I don't know, patch yourself up, like anything you could realistically do as a PC, I'd let you do, but I'm not going to let you like go back in time and have instead boosted the hyperdrive. It's like, no.
Sure. Yeah.
Limited information is part of the game.
Yep.
Yeah. I've played games that have this sort of initiative where like, the fastest person gets like the most information. And a lot of them have a system for like just bailing out of your action and going into like a full defense. But that is for like individual characters in a system where they're, fighting and taking damage and stuff.
Right. Yep. All right. So do you guys do you have any questions? Any questions at all? And you don't have to know everything right now. I did put a bunch of YouTube tutorials in there. So if you have questions about a specific role, I encourage you to look those up, or this like little overview basics video. I find that pretty helpful as well.
I think I've got the general idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of, but
but I like your idea of like kind of specializing because
yeah, it might be helpful if you don't keep track of everything yourself. Like if you someone's like the weapons expert, then they might be able to answer weapons questions for other people.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess one of the things we can talk about right off the bat is probably like what people are going to specialize in, because it seems pretty obvious that, say, like Bob is going to be our pilot, and whereas Amu is likely to be our science officer.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really liking the available options of the chief mate, which kind of means I don't necessarily have to really specialize, just help out where I feel the most help is needed.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whereas I figured I'd probably handle gunnery.
That's kind of
And
what I was thinking.
can one person fire any given gun, or can they not? Like,
So a given gun can only fire once per round, but a person can fire any number of, well, up to 2 realistically, guns.
right? Yeah, what I'm saying is, let's say Vangi is like operating the turret. She doesn't have to declare that she like jumps out of the turret and moves and like runs down the hall to do something else. I mean, other than like role play wise, she's just allowed to next round fire that.
Absolutely, but otherwise you're right, Rodrigo. Yeah. Technically, if you're shooting, you're occupying all of those things. Whichever one you want to be at, you're at.
Okay.
In role play sense, I do think it would be cool if you run down the hallway, but
but it'd be more like the way that it's described here in this game, not necessarily your game, but in Starfinder, is more like whoever is the gunner is like Worf on the bridge. He's just pushing a button that unleashes a phaser or a photon torpedo. He's not running. There's a whole bunch of other people behind the scenes loading up the torpedo bays. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah. I think it really comes down to skills. Like Hecubino is like basically his Venn diagram is like magic and social skills. So there's a lot of
seems like
there's a lot of good captain actions for me. I haven't sat down to read the magic officer because I didn't realize that it existed until today. But I'll sit down and look at those. But I kind of feel like because captain has can also put like debuffs on the enemy. I think that's probably a good place in general for Hecubino to hang out. But high wisdom, decent, perception checks and stuff. Can probably do sensors as well if it comes to it.
Yeah, how are Quentin's perception wisdom?
Wisdom is fair to Midland.
Yeah, but what's your do you have I know you have computers, but do you have
engineering?
Yeah, do you have engineering?
No, I have not trained engineering.
Okay.
I'm Lieutenant Uhura.
Sorry, what did you say?
So I know Bob has engineering, so I'm going to put down multiple people kind of beside these roles because again, you can switch it up. It's not like you're locked in, but you're probably always going to want someone piloting. So
So for that matter, I mean, I do have some ranks in engineering.
Yeah, as do I, for that matter.
Been maxing it out, so if there needs to be an engineer.
And I actually have some decent ranks in piloting.
If we get to a point where the life support absolutely has to get fixed this turn, I think we can move Bob off of pilot to take care of it and swap someone in just for a turn.
Right. Yeah. And Quentin, you've got good computers, right?
Mm-hmm. Well.
Yeah, I do actually have better piloting than engineering, so it makes sense that if I have to take over the piloting while you guys fix things, that could be a thing.
What's your piloting there, Brian?
I got piloting 15.
Oh yeah, you're really good.
Nice.
4 ranks. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at 17. My engineering's 15, and my computers is 15.
Yeah, my engineering's 12. But
okay, so we're really close to one another.
So good.
I know, so good.
So good.
My highest skill is athletics, which is like the primary skill for the chief mate. But I'm also, really good at attacking things.
Yeah, she's got that good BAB.
Yeah, exactly. BAB plus the soldier bonuses to damage.
And that's kind of been the main reason I've been leaning away from Gunner because I am not a full base attack bonus class.
Sure. I think I'm the only full base attack bonus class in the party. So
one trick with gunnery is it's kind of like a ranged attack, except you either use your base attack bonus or your ranks in piloting, whichever is greater. So for Vangie, that's always just maxed, which is great. But anyone like Bob would incidentally be pretty good at gunnery.
As with Skritic.
Yeah.
So there's a decent argument possibly made for me as chief mate and Skritic as gunner, but we can also kind of take that as it may.
Yeah, and you can kind of mix it up, right?
Exactly, because chief mate is like a support class anyways. So
additionally, there are like space combat feats, right? So depending on how much we think we're going to be space combating, if somebody wants to specialize more, you can probably look at those.
Yeah, I don't think I'd probably do that in all likelihood. It seems like this is likely to be a thing that comes up like once or twice.
Yeah, but I mean, how
often does regular combat come out? That's also fair. And feats are only like okay to begin with.
Yeah.
Like if a feat told me, "Hey, guess what? You're going to be freaking great twice." I don't know. I'd consider it.
Mm-hmm. That's legit.
Okay. So, I will now let you guys upgrade the Squeaky Clean. So, you have 85 additional build points to spend based off of where you're at currently. Your total is 180. So, the very first thing I would do if I were you is worry about your frame. And then after that, there's a bunch of other stuff you can spend points on. But if you're happy with your frame, you can move on.
I'm pretty happy with my frame because almost everything else is going to reduce our maneuverability, and I actually really like having good maneuverability.
Fair enough.
All right, then the next thing, since I would look at our power core, and our power core is a pulse red, and it looks like the highest amount of energy that we could get for our medium frame ship would be a pulse orange. No, I'm sorry, a pulse prismatic.
Yeah, pulse prismatic.
But it has a cost of 30, but it generates 300 PCU.
So that's an extra 125 PCU over what you guys currently have. And you're not at your power max, but you only have 26 power to spare. So
we almost got double build points. I am almost considering just at least to start considerations, just go with whatever, twice as much the current investment is in each category. And
as I in all RPGs I play, I tend to be a fan of buying the most expensive thing I can afford.
Yes.
Fair enough. And since we're not getting a higher frame, that frees up a bit more of that difference too. So, yeah,
and we could always, if we start squeezing, like scale back to Pulse Orange, but I don't think that extra 5 build points is really going to make a difference, whereas the 50 PCU might.
Yeah, so I'm good with that 30. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to keep track of your upgrades, and I'm going to write them down as we go, and it will be on the same sheet so you guys can see what I'm doing.
Cool.
Then the next thing
I have a few extra. I would kind of consider getting reinforced hull to decrease the amount of catastrophic things we got going on once we start getting beat up.
Yeah, one of the first things I would probably do is upgrade from Mark 3 to Mark 4 because that's going to be the highest we can get. That's not going to mess up our targeting. And I always just love anything that's a flat bonus.
Yeah, that's fine. The cost of that is 5 times the size category, so I don't know how that is.
I assume that's 3.
5 times M. 5 times M.
Yeah, so I assume that's 3 because it's tiny, small, medium.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So that would be 15 then.
At least for the reinforced hulls, that's what it is. Medium equals 3.
Okay. So, but
I'm sorry. What was this about?
So
just
we're looking
upgrading
at armor.
from Mark 3 to Mark 4 armor.
Yeah, so I think that would take it to 15. So that'd be 6 additional build points.
Okay.
I also would vote to upgrade our budget medium to budget long range sensors because I just think information gathering is so powerful.
Do you want to go budget? Do you want to go budget or do you want to go basic? Because the difference between those is not a lot.
Yeah,
but we do get a bonus on that basic long range as opposed to no bonus on a budget.
It's only a +2 modifier, which doesn't excite me that much. I'm mostly interested in the capability of long versus medium.
Okay.
I would say slot in budget for now, and again, if we have say 4 to spare, we can always upgrade that.
What did we upgrade the sensors to?
To budget long range. Cost of 6.
6 BP. No. Yeah. Does it consume any power?
No. No, it does not.
Okay. And so that's just 3 additional.
Right.
Okay.
We should probably. So I don't know if you guys want to go up to thrusters or not. It's 80 PCU is what it will do, but it gives us 2 extra spaces of movement. But we do take a piloting penalty of -1 if we go up to that.
Well, how is your How is your piloting, Bob?
My piloting is pretty good. It's like I said, it's a 17.
Yeah, that's something relevant. Is that obviously we don't want to pack the penalties necessarily, but Steven built Bob to have a superhuman piloting check, so we can probably throw a solid -2 at him without him really batting an eye. Of course, at some point we're gonna miss a piloting check by 1, and then we'll all kick ourselves. But statistically speaking, something like that should be okay. Again, we don't want to pack it up so that he has a -5. But a -1 or a -2 is probably reasonable.
Okay, and that'll max us out on our thrusters.
So that's upgrading to M12?
12, yeah.
And how much does that cost?
That is 6.
So 1 BP, and what's its power usage consumption?
80 PCU.
So that's 10 extra PCU.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys have a ton to spare here. Ton on everything.
Yeah. Other thing I would be very interested in is upgrading our shields.
Yeah, I was going to say shields and then weapons, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think upgrading from 50 to 80 on the shields is pretty easy because we got a ton more PCU, and that wouldn't increase, say, our regeneration time.
Let's see.
Regeneration time is all basically out of combat anyway. So
yeah. But I can imagine us having, say, 2 minutes, but not 4 minutes, possibly, because
Fair.
So, what are you recommending? The light shields 80?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, 80 sounds good. Get a full 20 on each side.
Yeah, I like that even distribution.
Is there an option to put a spoiler on it?
I think we should put a major spoiler on it.
Pinstripes.
Yeah, we can just put some dice in the windshield.
Yeah, some fuzzy space dice.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
Cost of that is 12. Kevin,
we need a license.
Those are expensive D20s. I got that reference.
Let's also talk about expansion bays. So we're not upgrading our size. So we get 2 of them that we can possibly put in. I still like the idea that Red Hugo had a while back of adding a brig.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need one.
We also Thrusters Primer, Ghost Drive, and launch tubes are all the ones you guys had mentioned before.
Yeah, Ghost Drive seems sweet.
Which one's a launch tube?
The launch tube would presumably allow us to launch the Sand Skink instead of having to land and then take it off. It would just allow us to pachoo into the race.
That is true.
but it takes 2 expansion bays. So
Yeah.
Also, while it sounds awesome, like it it's like how useful is that in general? Unless we get Vangia Starfighter.
There you go. Now the Ghost.
Then
the
I'm just going to change my name to Starbuck.
On the flip side, the Ghost Drive, the science officer attempts a computer check, and if you're successful, the Ghost Drive becomes active and the vessel in which it's installed becomes insubstantial.
Ooh.
Yeah, I kind of love the Ghost Drive because I love things that let you do something that you just definitely couldn't do before. And like Ghost Drive seems
additional actions. Like additional potential actions.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a problem. It's a solution to all sorts of problems.
Yeah, and so some negatives to the Ghost Drive. If it's active, then our speed goes down by 2, which puts us back to 10. And the distance between turns is 1 higher.
Sure. I mean, it's not something we have on all the time. It's something that we put on when we're about to get into an asteroid field.
Does insubstantial work like it does in most versions of D&D where it's like half damage?
Let's see. It can move through hexes containing enemy starships without allowing those foes to make free attacks. Insubstantial starships can't make free attacks on ships that pass through them. The starship science officer may freely deactivate the Ghost Drive at the beginning of the helm phase. Otherwise, the effect continues indefinitely. I'm trying to see if it says anything about.
So it basically just lets us go through stuff.
Yeah, I don't see anything about us being hit with it.
Let's see.
Well, so I would allow you guys to move basically through physical objects without, like, let's say you were going through an asteroid field. That would be an example where the Ghost Drive would be insane. I also didn't mention this just because I felt like I had talked so much, but there is a rare case of basically attacks of opportunity in Starship combat. You can move through other ships in Starship combat because a hex is pretty big. So a starship doesn't occupy all of the space there. If you move through somebody else's hex and you haven't taken a specific action, that there are a couple that let you not be attacked.
Actions, yeah.
Yeah, then they do get a free attack against you, and that attack doesn't count against their firing a weapon only once per turn.
So does that that's like they're able to fire a weapon on you?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not to represent like a collision or something.
No. It's like you went right past their gunner and they took a pot shot at you.
And so those attacks of opportunity only happen when we move through their space. That doesn't happen if we move in a... But
not even adjacent, irrelevant. Only literally right through them.
Okay, that's what I was getting to. So it's up to you guys what you guys want to do on those 2 empty bays. If you guys want a brig, that's cool. We've got those stupid gremlins still around.
Yes, and that is where I'm working with. We also mentioned earlier that... Anyway,
so, what we said?
That's my bedroom. We also mentioned earlier that there's the ability to attach extra bays to the ship.
I don't know that we want to do that. That increases our turning.
Yeah, and I don't think there's another bay that I'm so excited about that I feel like we need 5.
Yeah. So increasing, if you add even 1 expansion bay, it increases your turn distance by 1. But good news is you could add, once you've done 1, you could add up to 3.
Might as well do 3. Yeah, I don't know that we even necessarily need the 1 right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I have 3 different ideas for expansion bays right now.
Oh, what are those?
Yeah, hit us.
One of them is a drone tube.
Oh.
Basically, it allows if we have a hangar, it doesn't take a bay. But I don't think we have a hangar, do we?
No.
Could we add a hangar?
So it'd be
Where's that
adding.
part of
So it might be a matter of adding a hangar bay, and then this sits inside the hangar bay. And then getting a starship is not a terrible idea. A hangar bay can be installed only in a gargantuan or larger. Never mind.
Oh, nope.
Okay then. Not so much.
Drone, can that go into? I guess we can't do the drone tube. Okay.
All right.
All right.
But
a dream for another time.
we want to utilize the gremlins as a weapon, right? Like that is the whole reason why everybody else agreed to let Amu keep them.
Sure.
I mean, yes, but if you also just want to vent them into the cold vacuum of space,
We're good with that too.
yes.
Yes. See, Amu is not going to do that. However, a breaching pod allows us to send the gremlins at the enemy.
Yes, a breaching pod.
Yes, that's to do boarding actions,
Well,
right?
that's actually awesome. Put me and a gremlin in one of those things, and let's do this.
It'd be 8 medium or smaller creatures.
All right, put all of us into there.
Yeah.
So
I actually kind of love the breaching pod. I'm not gonna lie.
You know, there's this tabletop game called Battle Stations, which has very similar ship combat, except for you do have a ship layout that you do have to move around as well. I'm just getting a lot of flashbacks with that.
Dude,
so
let's
which kind of breaching pod are you thinking of?
Right in the knob.
Yeah,
how does the breaching pod? You can add, if you pay more, you get to have robots that automatically board.
Talk to me about boarding actions. Like I'm guessing that is some sort of abstract thing that happens during Starship combat, as opposed to us like immediately clicking into regular combat.
So there are rules for boarding as well in the Starship Operations Manual. You guys can... So breaching pods do their own specific thing, but there's also... wow. There's so many different little options if you dig into the actions.
Sure.
Ships can, for instance, ram one another.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yep. It's totally possible for a ship to ram another, and then they deal damage directly to the hull, and a boarding party can join. Or you can just have a boarding party resolve. Like, there are things called anchoring weapons, which are basically used to send your boarding party. So there's three ways. There's three major ways. Let's ignore injected pathogen for now.
I was going to say, I kind of like that one.
But let's say there's anchoring weapons, which again, I think of those as like a magic tractor beam / boarding device. There's breaching pods where you shoot a missile at them and the missile's full of people. And then there's ramming. Those are all ways that you can have a boarding party arrive on an enemy vessel. And then you guys, there's things where you can either lead a boarding party, where you're dealing basically damage as you go, and then there's also subduing a boarding party, where you guys go and fight whoever has boarded you.
Right.
So then if you look, I found it. I can post it to you guys somewhere. I'll post it in Roll20.
That's on page 40.
That link will take you to so resolving with Starship actions. Then there's things called boarding attacks, and there's a boarding resistance, which is basically your armor class against boarding, and then people fight. I'm gonna say, by and large, I'm not going to pay too much attention to this unless you guys deliberately make it a strategy. Now, I'm not going to promise that I won't board you, but if I do board you, I'm more likely to resolve it, I guess, a little bit more cinematically. I'd rather you guys take good actions than worry about a boarding resistance value that we're not going to otherwise keep track of.
Yeah, so isn't that in that boarding party thing, isn't it like a boarding party attacks to sabotage or something like that, and that's really all you would have to do if you wanted to not make that, a tile-based combat.
Yep.
Moment.
Yeah, I like the idea of getting the upgrade right, which I think is supposed to be you send a bunch of robots, but if we can just flavor it as Amu has actually started farming gremlins, and now we can just start shooting gremlins at people.
Watering,
my
getting
God,
them
I'm
wet,
in.
feeding them after midnight.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's fantastic.
Plus, I would allow that to basically allow you to pay less build points since you're not buying robots. You
Oh,
are
sure,
farming
we're
gremlins.
deploying gremlins.
Yep.
So would that basically just be pay the
You'd still have to
one
pay for the
lower?
breaching pods, right? But you can pay just the basic breaching pod cost.
Well, because there's 4
Love it.
variations on the breaching pod. Because you got the basic one, then you've got autonomous, then skilled autonomous, and specialized autonomous.
Yep.
Would we
I'm
basically?
telling you, if you want to send gremlins at people, you should pay for the basic breaching pod, and then I will incorporate gremlins as a special. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm in
super down
favor.
for it. It sounds like fun.
So that
breaching pod and brig.
Yeah, that would take the place of the ghost drive, which it looks like mainly what the ghost drive does is it allows you to pass through enemy squares. Doesn't seem to have any effect on basically shooting, right? People can still shoot you and you can still shoot them.
Okay.
I mean, it would have some, potentially neat narrative capabilities.
Yeah, but so would shooting gremlins at people.
Yes. Agreed.
So the breaching pod has a PCU of 5 as well as a build point of 5.
Yeah, so it does. Good call.
Don't mean
we
to
weren't
be
at a
Rob
PCU,
there, but
were we?
No, you're not
not even close.
to your limit.
Okay, I didn't think we were remotely close to it.
no,
So
but
I was like,
I wanted to make sure that we counted it down.
So
Is
weapons now?
is a breaching thing an action that we, have some skill points put into, or is that something that somebody would just trigger and it happens automatically?
I'm trying to see what action it would be to. It would definitely be an action to deploy them, but I'm not seeing a skill check. I'll double check that. I'll look into the boarding stuff.
Okay.
I mean, the nice thing about Starfinder's ship combat is that they didn't add separate skills to do the stuff. It's all on the existing skill list.
So you treat it like you would a target lock weapon, because that's essentially what it is. So that's kind of funny. It moves like a missile, so it's going to try to find that ship and lock onto it. So
you
it
have to
will
take out their
target
shields first.
It will target their target lock value, and then you try to slam into the ship.
And we need to add a brig that's a cost of 1 and a PCU of 1.
No, that's minimal.
Cool.
I mean, you got to give them a little power so that they can read their comic books in prison.
All right, I say we upgrade our flak thrower to a laser net because it's just a strict upgrade.
Sounds good.
Definitely not going to get the other thing I wanted.
What was the other thing you wanted?
Habitat simulator.
Oh.
No.
I have a genius loci to start growing.
That's going to be our After Drifters project, Butto.
So what did you want to upgrade?
I was thinking of turning the flak throwers into laser nets because they're basically strict upgrades.
How much more?
It's a good question. It's 4 more build points for each of them.
Oh, okay.
Any additional PCU or just build points?
No PCU, just build points.
Okay. They're called laser throwers?
Laser nets.
Laser nets, okay.
And they do 2d6 instead of 3d4 damage, and have a point of 10 as opposed to 8.
Do you want something for the aft?
Probably.
So in order to do that, you would need to add an aft weapon mount, which you currently don't have, but those can be added. Because the frame only comes with mounts in each direction. Minus aft.
What does point plus 10 versus point plus 8 mean? I'm trying to figure that one out.
Where do you see that?
Under the weapon. Never mind. I'm looking at the reading now. So.
Yeah, we still have
okay.
points.
It makes it more difficult to intercept, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, if we still have points and power available, we probably should get a weapon in the whatever arc we're still missing one.
In the backside.
Yeah, you guys have a ton of power and a decent number of build points. You have 42 build points left and like all the power you could possibly spend.
Then does our hyperspace engine do anything when we're in combat or when we're in any of these races?
That. In other games, it might matter more. In short, it's up to you. It affects how quickly you drift travel, which, despite the name, so I always find this annoying. I'm sorry, tangent time.
No, I understand what you're saying. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead, though.
Well, let's say something goes from 2D 6 days to 2D 3 days. Narratively, that doesn't matter at all.
Right.
That is, who cares? Any points you spend on that are wasted. I guess theoretically there are times if someone has really, really carefully constructed their narrative such that it's oh no, we have to worry about exactly this amount of drift travel. But in reality, that's just a pain, and it's not super helpful.
There are really only feel bad situations in which this applies.
Right. So to me, if you want to upgrade it, go for it.
Well, no,
I'm never going to hold that against you.
Yeah, this is so we would never engage a hyperspace engine in the middle of a race.
No.
Or
not
be part of a
trying to
not if we want
to save your life or something.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Not if we want to actually complete the race.
Well, now I want to try it just to see what happens.
Like in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. They've gone plaid.
Do we?
So the other thing we could do is we could upgrade Grace to a Mark II Terran.
But we should also figure out what we want to add as an aft weapon, because I do think that's a good idea. I'm just trying to figure out what our options are.
That's kind of.
I do think upgrading the computer, upgrading Grace, is a good idea. Let me see how you add a mount. Starfinder.
Probably after
I think it's under special materials, and when it says no, it's not under materials. It is. Oh man, I was just on the page.
Is there any rules for what allows you to do a light weapon versus a heavy weapon? I assume we can't do capital
your size
weapons.
Of your ship.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So
yeah, there's a capital frame size of a ship, which I guess is like a small floating
I assume that we can only do light weapons then.
Weapon mount
medium, I think.
Yeah, medium. We can go up to medium.
Well, there are no mediums. There's only heavy, and capital. So I don't know what heavy is.
It's in between medium and light. Because medium, light,
let me
heavy.
Take a look at those full rules on Starship weapons and see if that answers it.
It's medium, light, heavy, and then it's kick, jab, and roundhouse.
Right.
Oh, heavy weapons can be mounted on medium ships.
Nice.
So that's good to know.
Huh.
Actually, then, if that is the case, then I would suggest that we actually, instead of using laser nets, we go to heavy laser nets, because they do a lot more damage. They're also a lot more expensive, so I don't know. I could be wrong.
Heavy laser net.
Might as well. We can swap.
Well, how much BP do we have left?
Well, what does a laser net cost?
So a regular laser net costs 9 BP and 10 PCU, whereas a heavy laser net costs
15.
Correct.
So that would be plus 6. So it'd be plus 12 BP, which is the more limiting factor for sure. The PCU you guys can just absorb no matter what, but that would kick you guys up to 150 out of 180. Not the end of the world, but a decent bit.
But it adds 3d6 damage.
I might do everything else you want to do and come back to that.
That seems totally reasonable. So why don't we take a look at Grace?
All right. So it costs 4 build points to convert a light weapon mount to a heavy weapon mount, or 6 for a turret.
And if we go,
what if we want to add a whole new one?
So there is another thing you can do, which is kind of goofy. It's up to you whether you think that this is worthwhile. It just costs build points. It's called a fortified hull with extra thick armor a starship's designer can limit catastrophic failures caused by incoming attacks. Basically, it increases that critical threshold value, the distance between which you take critical damage. And by the way, your hit point value is just going to increase. See that increment 10 value?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you guys are going from a tier 3 to a tier 7 ship. So it's going to increment 4 times.
Nice.
So it costs 3 build points to install a new weapon mount, non-turret, or 5 BP for a turret. And we can have 3 as a medium weapon, 3 weapon mounts per arc and per turret.
So in that case, I mean, it's up to you guys, but I think 5 for another turret is probably better than 3 for an aft. Because the turret can fire anywhere.
Sure.
That seems totally reasonable.
That makes sense.
Your turret mount, your turret weapon is your best weapon in terms of ease of use.
Well, in that case, since most of the time we're just going to have one person firing per turn anyway, do we just want to upgrade our turret weapon and not even get an aft weapon?
Yeah,
I would do that.
That seems like it would make a lot of sense.
Will we be upgrading or adding another turret? Because I thought Kevin did
both or either.
Yeah.
Ooh, Top Gun belly gun.
Why not? B-17 action.
And those are for light weapons, by the way. Yeah. We'd have to still do the upgrade to the heavy weapons.
Sure. How much for cartoon wheels?
$9.95, but the zombies are free.
So would you guys like to add a turret mount for 5 BP? Well, why don't before we make that decision, what would you want your turret mount gun to be?
Yeah, I'm looking at some of those options. I mean,
heavy orbital death laser.
Yeah, right. So our current turret
cares about the computer, how much would it up? How much does it cost to up the computer system from say Mark 1 to Mark 2?
For the Tetranode, if we keep that the same, the PCU cost goes up by 15 and the cost in BP is 16.
Oh, holy cow.
Yeah, it's a huge upgrade to the computer.
Okay.
And I also think that hull plating or whatever you mentioned is something that would be worth
so
fortified hull to get the steel composite, the weakest one, it's going to cost 6, and it's basically going to be additional 6 for each.
So the good news is your critical threshold is now 19 because your hit points are now 95. So it's a little bit better than it was before. But yeah.
So it's whether we want, I mean, and we don't have to go up to the Tetranode, although, Rodrigo, you did say you like the 4 bonuses. Even the Trinode is got a cost in BP of 12.
I mean, so that allows us for 4 different crew members to give a bonus to something?
To whatever action they're taking.
Is there going to be a time when we have 4 people giving bonus actions to the remaining 2 people on our crew?
Is it giving
unlikely.
Is it giving it to other people or is it giving it to yourself?
Imagine Vangie is firing a gun. The computer helps her and gives her +2.
Oh! So that's
not how it works. It's not aid another. It's aid another from the computer.
Aid another coming from the computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah. Then absolutely. Yeah. Let's go for the
that seems really good then.
Let's go.
Okay.
So I mean, you guys still have 42 build points. So even with
we still have time. We can do that.
All right. So that's you said it's 16 build points.
Yeah, 16 build points and 15 for the PCU, and that's the MK, and that's the Mark II Tetranode.
All right. I will note that.
Yeah, 16 total, not 16 additional.
So we could upgrade our current turret mount, which is the coil gun, to something much nastier.
Right.
And I think that we should keep with something that still is long ranged, because I just hate the idea of reducing our range. And so then the option is, depending on how much build points we want to spend on it. Like the The low option is the railgun, which is 15 build points and just doubles our damage. But I could go as far up as 22 build points for the Mazer, which would go from 44 damage. So 44 damage is what we have now with the coil gun. For 15 build points, we get to the railgun, which is 8d4 damage. Or for 22 build points, we could get to the Mazer, which is 6d10 damage.
Do it.
Whoa.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's it called?
Mazer, M-A-S-E-R.
Oof. Okay, and how much build points does it cost total?
It's going to cost 22. So our current is the coil gun is 10, so it'll cost a total of 12.
No, that's the
the
current coil
PCU.
gun is 6.
6.
Oh, okay.
6 BP.
Gotcha. Then
How
we
much
must
does
have
it
gotten
cost in BP first, then PCU?
Okay, so the Mazer's BP is 22 and its PCU is 35.
That is fine. So that brings us up to 166 out of 180 and 205 out of 300 power capacity. Now, we're not quite at our limit yet on build points or power, but I will throw out this option for you guys. You very reasonably upgraded basically your power core as much as possible to start to be sure you guys had capacity. But now looking at the number, it looks like you're going to run out of build points before you run out of power capacity.
Yeah, let's drop that down to Pulse Orange, which will give us 250. And it only costs 25. That gives us 5 more build points.
Well, that gives us more build points to spend.
Yeah.
All right. So now you have 45 power and 19 build points.
So how much does that the fortified hull cost?
Basically increments of 6 build points. So we can add 3 to our critical threshold for 6, 6 to our critical threshold for 12, and for 18.
12 for 18.
Yeah. Yep.
One thing
Or
we
9
haven't
for
upgraded
18.
at all that we could consider is the defensive countermeasures.
Oh, yeah. You guys haven't upgraded those at all, and those are basically your armor class for missiles.
Yeah.
We absolutely need to, yeah.
All right, so we're at a Mark 3 now. Mark 4. Let's see. So the max that we could go up to would be a Mark 8 defenses, which is 9 PCU and 18 in the BP.
A lot.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary, but maybe like Mark 6.
All right. So that's that has a cost. The BP is 11.
PCU
and the
5.
PCU is 5.
So that'll be plus 7 BP and
plus 3 on the PCU.
Plus 3 PCU.
And so that increases us by 6. Or moves us up to 6.
The defensive countermeasures, that's going to definitely up your target lock a good bit.
And we still have 11 points?
Yeah. 12. 12 BP left. But you guys have covered the bases. Like, you've done armor, you've done thrusters, you've done defensive countermeasures and shields and weapons.
Did we do the enhanced hull?
No, not yet.
You didn't do a fortified hull, but you did buy your expansion bays, you upgraded sensors. So anywhere you thought you were a little light, maybe shields, maybe sensors, maybe hull.
Yeah, that's true. We could always go back to sensors and go from budget to basic.
Yeah.
There you go.
What kind of bump would that give us?
It'll take us the sensors if we go to basic long range. Gives us a modifier of 2, and the cost is 10.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
That still gives us 6.
It's just
what's the
8 build
cheapest?
point?
What's it called?
Hull reinforcement?
Yeah, that's the one.
It'd be 6, and it'd increase our critical threshold by 3.
Well, it sounds like the magic number then.
Oh,
okay.
Math works out. Now I can't wait to figure out what we absolutely forgot, and Kevin didn't tell us about.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin's not a jerk like that. He's not like, oh, you guys forgot to life support. Now you all die.
See, you say that, but I've heard stories about like blue dragons and stuff.
That's
Get
true.
decked out in metal armor.
I was a jerk back in college.
It's the back in college that makes it funny.
So wait, fortified hull is what you wanted, right?
Yes.
And so it's going to cost 6. By my count, you still have 2 build points remaining.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing too.
Yeah. And so fortified hull, and that will increase. So let's see. That's going to increase it by 2 because your size category is medium.
Oh, okay.
We could get like basic blade of armor. Just gives us 8 temps.
And we get like horns in case we have to ram someone.
Spines.
How much does it cost for flames to be painted on the side?
Oh, you guys are getting whatever they love to decorate.
There is spines that we can get.
There's also an auto destruct system.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. Let's get only be used against us.
It seems like it's got a bad idea written all over it. Like, will be used against you more than you want to use it.
For sure, 100%.
I mean,
that's why he wants it.
Yeah,
Mark 1 spines is 1 build point.
Yeah.
So we'd still have to find something that's one more. Hive joining.
The Starship spine.
Starship spine? What is it even under?
It's under
other systems.
Other systems, indeed.
They're a combination of rigid spikes, jagged blades, and long spines that can fend off nearby ships and creatures. When a starship is outfitted and rammed by another vessel or struck by an attack whose maximum range is 1 hex, that vessel provokes a free attack with the spines from the starship. The spines are a starship weapon that require no mount. They can tack any arc, can't be used to make any other attacks, and deal damage based upon the spine's mark. So we would do 1d4 damage, depending on their size.
Point.
Yeah. Where's the basic blade of armor?
That's what I'm saying. The basic blade of armor is 2, and it would give us 8 temps.
Oh yeah,
it's not that big.
Spines are cool,
but it could make a difference.
You guys decide. I don't care.
I always vote cool over useful. I mean, that's my whole schmiggy.
It is like really in character for us to put like specifically spines on a ship.
Spine on Team Lizard Brain?
Yeah, that's legit.
I'm writing it down.
Man, I almost feel like maybe we should do just the blade of armor other than the
that's fine. We can do that too. That's fine. I have no problem with that.
We have power to spare, although not enough to lower our power core another
step. Unfortunately.
But that
6 points is a real limiting factor, though you do have to pay attention to your power core to some extent.
Yeah, I think there's probably a place where it flips based on like ship size, where you have like a ton of bays, and then you probably start dealing with with power as the limiter.
All right, cool. So I wrote down all of the upgrades as we went along, and there's like a little list at the bottom that discusses our expenses, and I tallied things at the top. So you guys are good to go. Before next session, I will have this a little cleaned up so that you're not seeing all these upgrade 2s. It's just going to show you what it is.
The final numbers,
your final numbers. And now you guys know a bit about Starship combat. I hope that our listeners found this useful. I don't see how you can play Starfinder Starship Combat and not have a session kind of like this one.
Oh, absolutely.
This is fun.
Yeah. Because otherwise, it's so different. I think it's understandable. I think it's parsable, but still, it's very different from regular gaming.
As a game master, the only other option I would see is if you have like a very, very hands-on babies first space combat kind of a thing, where you like basically already have everything figured out that's going to happen, and you basically just put the players in a position and be like, okay, make this roll because you're the captain now, and just kind of like walk everybody through this very complex system But you know, yeah,
Like,
you know,
that's
player
why it's
agency
next
and stuff.
episode. Yeah, next episode. Also, now that we understand the Starship system, I can really see people who are getting into this game, just depending on how the game master wants to run it, where maybe they're just people that are freighting stuff from one side of the system to another, getting into skirmishes, upgrading their ships until eventually they have these dreadnought class ships going out after people. I mean, that could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think you can really geek out of this stuff. Like, as I said, like, I refuse to play something without good maneuverability because I played, like, Saganami Island Tactical Simulator, and that was one of the worst experiences of my life. But some people really enjoy that, so...
There's like, this is still a D20 system, so a lot of the truisms apply. Like, you don't want to, like, penalize your attack in any way. You don't want to, like, necessarily shortchange yourself on movement, because that stuff, if you're actually using a grid, you can just really screw yourself over by just not being able to get to where you need to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's still a D20 game, and it, like, sure, they do some weird stuff with the initiative, and it's got facing, but, like, at the end of the day, you're still rolling D20s and going, hey, did I succeed at my skill check, or did I hit on my attack roll? Okay, well, cool, then I deal damage. Like, it's not like, I don't know. I read through a lot of stuff on Reddit, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos about Starship combat, and I saw a decent bit of hate, but I don't know. I think it's all within the capability of a good group, and
it really seems like the Starfinder crew was like, hey, let's have this system that kind of clicks into our other system, but let's allow it to do everything that we want to be able to do. And that's like, that's why it's so, quote unquote, that's why it's so complicated, is because they need to have all of these, literal, like, bays, so that you can click in all of these different types of combat that you expect Starship combat to be able to do from, like, other media.
Exactly. But as like Sam, as you were saying earlier, it's like, I could imagine, like, upgrading to larger ships and having, like, more ships in a fight. Like, once you know what you're doing, like, we have to run a couple Starship combats and see how it goes. But, like, I could kind of imagine a game where Starship combat was front and center. In fact, there's a chapter in the Starship Operations Manual about how to run Starship Central games. And I kind of think that that's cool. It's like, look, and, like, they emphasize, like, keep up the non-combat stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, combat's cool, but, like, imagine you're watching an episode of Star Trek Next Gen. Most of the time, it's a non-combat situation.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's part of, I mean, I know, like, Paizo's whole vision for this was to be kind of the sci-fi game for everyone, no matter what kind of sci-fi they're into. So if you want to play, like, Star Wars or Battlestar Galactica or Star Trek, you really do need some pretty robust ship systems.
Yeah.
Well, and then keeping in mind that some of these larger ships can have your tiny ships in there.
Exactly.
You could go from massive battleship combat to individual skirmishes.
And boarding parties, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you could do all sorts of stuff with this.
So which role would be Deanna Troi? Because I feel like Quentin is a real bridge bunny kind of.
I mean, not to get into a fight to play Deanna Troi, but
nope, I'm going to fight you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, he's like a psychic.
I'm actually
he's a good-looking psychic.
Yeah.
Okay, she's barely psychic. I mean, after
she's
season
the most
2,
psychic on the ship.
Sure. She
is not the most psychic on the ship.
She's actually incredibly psychic. They will show up to a planet, and she'll be like, "Captain, I'm getting a lot of anger from this planet that we're like 100 miles, like 1,000 miles away from still."
Nah.
She's just as psychic as the plot necessitates.
That's exactly
that's it.
Just as psychic as Worf is strong.
Worf's pretty strong, but not as strong as Data.
So Vanky's Worf, Hecubina's Deanna Troi.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Bob being Geordi.
Bob being Geordi makes a lot of sense.
I feel like Bob is Wesley.
Oh,
because whatever.
Hey, no, whatever. I don't mean it. I like Wesley.
I mean, Amu's got to be Abu's kind of like somewhere between Barkley and Crusher, right?
I mean, I do ascend to godhood because I am so great as Wesley, right?
Oh, Barkley
Right,
and Crusher. Oh my goodness.
Rocket jumper. Like a rainbow jumper.
Yeah. Anyway, dear listeners, we hope you've enjoyed all of this and all of this stuff. Get over to our Discord. Let us know what Star Trek or Star Wars or Battlestar Galacticas or Babylon 5s or Foundation characters that you are equating us to. The Expanse, yeah. Just get over to our Discord. Jump into the Critical Hit server or channel, and everybody's there is really cool. Make sure you say hi. Get your cat gifts on the way in, and we'll be back next time to take this new ship for a little test spin and see what happens. Maybe we won't have to use that self-destruct button. Who knows? You'll have to come back and find out if all of our dice rolls are critical hits.
This podcast is copyright 2021 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause. And MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.